How did HaKadosh Baruch Hu relate to them? Kel Shaddai, which means what? Limited, narrow, very little. Okay? Kel, the God who's involved in things, right? Kel, Elohim, same word. God is involved in things, directly involved, who limits what people will see and understand. So this is a bombshell. It's an absolute bombshell because it says that what our patriarchs saw and knew about HaKadosh Baruch Hu was limited. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides, so to speak, to limit his revelation at that point in time. Yeah? So what does he say? Ve'era el Abraham, el Yitzhak, ve'el Yaakov, bekel Shaddai. That's the way I interacted with them. Now, what does Kel Shaddai mean? Shem Amonai, he didn't. Shem Elohim, he didn't. Right? What does that mean? And what are we moving into? We're moving into an Amonai Elohim stage of revelation. So what does that mean? What's the change? It's a fantastic change. Take it, go back a minute, right? In the lives of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, where's the shock and awe stuff? Any shock and awe stuff? Was there any shock and awe stuff in the lives of Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob? What was it? Like what? Birth, right? That was shock and awe, right, for their clan. Very good. What else? Huh? So so that was a test, right? It was all, to your point, right? Very, very narrow, very constricted. Huh? That was private.
Well, what about the wars?
Right. What's that?
What about the wars that Abraham won?
What about the wars that Abraham fought? Maybe he was a better tactician. He was a better military strategist than they were. 4 kings against 5. It wasn't a massive victory. It was a victory, right? Yeah. Okay, good. The revelation is the revelation, but how God then connects to us and talks to us seems very, very narrow and close, as opposed to what? Well, let's see. 10 mind-boggling plagues, right? Plagues that shake up the world, right? We're contrasting it to that.
Are you contrasting it also to a individual as opposed to a group?
Yeah. So we're saying that it was much narrower, right? To Rachel's point, was much narrower, and it was much less shock and awe, much less overt. Okay? That's what God said. Yeah.
Say maybe that what happened to Makot with Sarah was maybe a little bit bigger because his kingdom get sick, were they all dying?
It's all midrash. It could be, but it's not in the text, so we don't know. It could be, and it could be that other people were impacted by what Paro did, or what Elimelech did, or this that. It could be. But we're extending the learning for that. It's not black and white on the page. So yes. Okay? So now, what's happening now? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, now I'm going to blast this thing out, and I'm going to show what? Shmi Amonai Lo Nodati. The name, meaning the manifestation, the expression under Yud Kei Vav Kei wasn't shown. Good. So what is the Yud Kei Vav Kei expression in big terms? What is it? It's long-term, it's patient, it's building, it's kick the can down the road, right? We have it on the page, right? It's not right now this minute. It's flowing, it's developmental, it's gradual. Yes, past, present, future. No, we're talking about Amonai. Very good. Amonai is what's that? Yeah, right. Ehiyeh and Amonai are 2 different things. We're going to see the term Ehiyeh, but Ehiyeh means past, present, future. Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey. Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey is Eheyeh. Amonai is Yud, Kei, Vav, Kei. Yeah.
The first passage, I'm just looking, it's very interesting. Vayedaber Elokim el Moshe, Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem, or Amonai. He appears to him as Elohim, but he's telling him, I am something other than what you see.
That's right. He tells him what you're going to see, and this is very, very important. You have to hold this point, and that's why it's very important to call out. Ehiyeh means one thing. Shakai means one thing. Elokim means one thing. Amonai means one thing. You got to be right there. So now your question is, which we're not going to talk about today, because we're not talking about Elokim yet. We will. Your question is, well, why does he address him from an Elohim? You know what? Let's talk about it. Why does he address him from an Elohim perspective? And then tell him we're going to deal with Amonai now. What does Elohim mean? If Amonai means big picture, mercy, kick the can down the road, right? 100 years, 200 years, 400 years, a lifetime. That's Amonai, right? We're not exacting. It's not this minute. Yeah, it's long view. Good, Mazal? Good with that? Not so good with that? Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right. What are we doing here? What's that? Okay, so let's take a parent. Right? There are certain things that a parent will do. Where a parent will say, Adkan, this you don't move beyond this. You're my son, you're my daughter. This is absolute yes or absolute no, and there ain't no anything else to talk about. Sorry, you have an opinion. Guess what? I don't care. I'm exaggerating, right? That's Elohim. Good. That's Elohim. Excellent. Amonai is, you know what? I see this thing isn't attached yet. I understand you're moving your life in a certain place. I'm with you. I'm going to push and pull and nuance and tug, but we've got a long-term plan here, you and me. I know where we're going to end up. You don't. You have a sense of where you want to go. So I'm going to just push you like that. And in the meantime, my primary attribute that I'm going to ascribe to you is not Dean, it's not accountability, because I don't want to hold you accountable every minute because you ain't there. So what am I going to do? I'm going to give you the mercy. I'm going to give you the long-term view. That's Amonai.
So don't we get that from the word by the bed also? That we're gonna have a dialogue now with that with.
By the bear, what you get from the word by the bear is there was a lot more spoken than what was written down. That's what you get from by
But
the bear.
don't you get a dialogue?
Yeah, it could be, sure.
Whereas Ahmad is just whatever. he
It's
said.
straight. It's straight. Yes.
And
yes.
the UK Babke, isn't that exclusive for Am Yisrael?
You know, I would say not. I would say not. Why would you say not? Now, being that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that he's going to reveal himself as Yud Ke Vav Ke, why would you say that's not exclusive? Because what are we about to step into? We're about to step into the plagues, right? Which the whole world saw, the whole world at the time. So you're going to say that Amonai is everybody. Again, what I just want to ask of you, what's that?
He's doing that.
It could be, but what I want to suggest, Sarah, you and I will disagree until our final days on the planet. No, it's amazing. She's great. No, because she knows what you know, and it's great. What I want to suggest is, for our purposes, stay where you are, stay where we are. Yeah, and this so that you can put a picture together.
That's one thing I'm always confused when I read that Kel Shaddai.
Kel Shaddai, right. What does it mean? So it's an acronym we hold that Kel Sha'amar Le'olamo Dai. The God, by the way, it's Kel, it's not Amonai, it's Kel, meaning the God who's in the details, the God who's demanding, who told his world, stop. Stop what? Stop. Stop what? Stop expanding. Yeah. Stop expanding. When people are not ready, humanity is not ready. We need a process. Now, the big question is, why wasn't the Torah given in year one? Give the Torah to Adam. Why are you waiting 2,450, 60 years to give the Torah? Well, Sherabbin doesn't get the Torah till the year 2,400 and something. Why? Give the Torah earlier. The point is, the people are not ready. We start with a Kel Shaddai. We move into an Ammonai reality. By the way, what reality are we in now? We're still in an Ammonai reality. Is God exacting? God forbid. If God was exacting now, we'd be in all kinds of trouble, right? He's exacting from time to time. Of course he is. And he's very involved now in our lives directly. So that's more of an Elohim expression, right? But is he in a full Elohim march? Thankfully not, because we're not ready. Yeah.
You say that, I mean, I see where it says it, but why do you say that Moshe did not know him as Ammonai up until now, when God, Ammonai has been
Used.
around since
Excellent.
God, since he created.
That's right.
Since right after he created the world, and.
Excellent
and that
question.
was put on earth.
Excellent question. The words Ammonai and Elohim are used from creation. In fact, Elohim's used in creation, right? Very good. So what we're talking about here, and this is a very important point, and this gets fleshed out more with the plagues, right? What God uses in doing something should be learned on that level. God uses Elohim to create clouds. Now, you have to ask the question, all of us, well, why is Elohim creating the clouds and not Kel Shaddai and not Ammonai? That's a fabulous question. Now, how does man see God? Man only sees God in the way that God lets him be seen. So even though Elohim is used with creation, or Ammonai is used with this or that, it has very limited impact because God is not manifesting that way. But you can't ignore it. You have to say, but why was Ammonai used here? And why was Elohim used there? If it wasn't used for Abraham, what was it used for? So when you understand the nuances, right? Yeah, Leslie, no?
So
No,
every
good.
day,
No, I don't want this to be hard.
It's hard for me to grasp. Like, even though you're saying it and I'm hearing it.
So I want to go slow, and I want you to own it.
Like
Okay.
certain ways, and you connected with her in certain ways. And she showed you a certain part of yourself, maybe a silly, maybe a little warm. And then as you matured, you got to know your mother, you took her away. Now, if you speak with her, I don't know what you have in another situation, but let's just say you should technically have a different relationship with her because she's showing you a different side to her. And it's very complicated, right? And it all depends on your level too. How much can you understand having conversations where when you're 3 versus when you're 20, right? So that's what's going on here. It's going on here. And so I'm telling you, Chef, listen, when I got it, I'm created I only connected with the whole, with, let's say, this way. Like when you were 35 years old.
Right.
They don't understand me just yet in this way.
Excellent.
That's true about mountains and art on different relationships.
Right. Right. So let's look at it here. Beautiful, Marcel. Beautifully said. Let's look at it here. Let's look at it here a minute. Stay here a minute. Let's look at it here a minute. Yeah. Okay. This is all of existence. This is all of existence, right? This is all of us. This is everybody else in the universe, right? On the planet and other planets, right? Because there may be others, right? This is the sun and the moon and the stars. Yeah. This is other galaxies. This is everything, right? This is everything, right? We hold that God created everything and is the master of everything, right? Now, to Mazal's point, there has to be an experience and a movement and an evolution of things, right? So let's take example where the Jewish people are now, right? The Jewish people now are at an unprecedented period in human and Jewish history. There has never been a time, ever. There has never been more people learning Torah, ever, since ever, never, unprecedented. Okay, there within a few years, first time in 3,000 years, there'll be more people in the land of Israel than in the rest of the world put together in 3,000 years. That hasn't happened, right? Communities like, number, sheer number. No, we'll have more than 50%,
But we're learning what the.
100%. And not on the same level, but in sheer numbers. Yes, sorry, sheer numbers. Good. Now, so humanity is growing and maturing and getting more sophisticated, right? Yeah, hopefully getting more sophisticated, right? And therefore, we're seeing more and more and more of God. Whereas, like when we study, right? What do you see? You see certain great rabbis never saw the books written by other great rabbis. One lived in Europe and one lived in North Africa or the Middle East. A few people did, very, very few, but a few people did, very, very few. But what's happening now is many, many more, whether they are or they're not, they're building the capacity to do so. We're reaching a level of Ruach HaKodesh that is just spectacular, that nobody dreamed of 50 years ago. Nobody thought people could study on this level and come up with ideas on this level. Nobody thought these things were possible. So my point, so my point being that there's a growth, and as we grow, God reveals more. What God is saying at this point is, I revealed what was appropriate to reveal at that point to that reality. Now we're moving into an Ammonai stage where I'm breaking out, and I'm going to show a lot more people a lot more. Then we're going to move to the Elohim stage, right? We're going to show a lot more people a lot more, and those people are going to be able to see me in their lives directly. So we'll stop saying things like kapara, and it's all for the good. We'll stop saying that. Why will we stop saying that? Because we'll understand what's going on. We won't have to dismiss it. We'll be able to say, you know what? I have that level of connectedness and awareness that I know what's going on here. I know what God is pushing me because I know I'm not where I want to be the happiest I could be to set that.
Isa, I'm on a UK.
Yeah, it's individual and it's collective. Great job.
But individual, every person has their relationship with Hashem.
That's right.
Yes, the many voices of that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Not at all. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Question. I'm going back to what you told us that Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Yosef, that they all knew the plan. So what you're describing sounds
Knew
like
what plan?
They were, you know, that's the destiny of the Jewish people and how they had to go down to Mitzrayim. So
That they knew. I don't know if they knew the destiny of the Jewish people, but that they knew.
no, I mean that they were going to Mitzrayim.
Right,
Like that was that plan, not
Yep.
the whole plan.
right.
But that they knew. So but then you're saying that they only knew Elohim.
They only knew Kel Shaddai.
Oh, El Shaddai, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
El Shaddai. So they didn't have the Amonai yet.
No,
And
not
you're
really.
saying that, you're saying.
We're stepping into Ammonai now. I'll tell you
But
what,
how did they have that connection to know that? You're saying now we say kapara and that but they already had that connection and without it.
so let's not be so sure about that. You know, let's understand that this was a work in progress for them. If they were perfect, they would give birth to perfect children, and Mashiach would have been here a long time ago. They weren't. It was a work in progress. They were a work in progress. Were they spectacular and unprecedented in certain areas? Yes, but they were a work in progress. So, you know, what's the famous piece that that Moshe Rabbeinu goes into the Bet Midrash of the Rabbi Akiva, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest of the greatest, studiers and teachers, right? He goes into the Beit Midrash of Rabbi Akiva. Who is it, Rabbi Akiva? Person who didn't know how to read and write. He didn't know the alphabet. When did he start learning? At the age of 40, right? He becomes possibly, if not the greatest, certainly one of the greatest ones. Moshe Rabbeinu walks in to his Beit Midrash. What happens? Huh? Yes, and what happens? Beautiful. One step before that. Excellent. Rabbi Akiva, how did they sit people in the Beit Midrash? I'm going to exaggerate the story a little bit. How did they see people in the Beit Midrash? Rachel, by their level of scholarship. Where's Moshe Rabbeinu sitting? He ain't sitting anywhere near the front row. What are you talking about? How could it be? Isn't Moshe Rabbeinu the one who spoke to God? Sure he is. But now you had hundreds of years passed, and the Torah grew to a much greater level of understanding and depth. What do you mean? Are we saying that Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't the greatest? He was the greatest. But was Rabbi Akiva the greatest? He was the greatest. And we have to understand this. So Moshe Rabbeinu isn't put in the front row. And when Rabbi Akiva is asked a question, what does he say? Halacha Moshe Misinai. We got this from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is looking around, right? Right, Mazal? Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna change the name of the class. I never thought of it that way, class.
So to speak, the Torah is from Moshe.
Right.
So that's why he's at the top.
Right.
It always refers back to Moshe.
Right.
And now we've had years of knowledge, and also our ability to articulate the ideas is far more complex.
That's right.
The more we learn.
That's right.
You develop the language, you develop the understanding. It's like today's physics is nothing like the physics of 100 years ago.
That's right. That's right. And we need to appreciate that. And that's why we have iterations and people move through a number of different lifetimes in this process. Okay. Good. Huh?
So you value one of his character more important than everything else. Maybe he was in the back, but he had the basic humanity.
He sat in the back because he didn't have this level of Torah understanding. That's the fact. That's where you got to struggle with you. Well, right? Fantastic.
Do we have any
Huh?
prophets? Do we have
Because he
any
was
prophets?
humble.
Do we
What?
have any prophets anymore?
Huh?
I mean, they had prophecy then.
Yeah, who says we don't have prophets now like we had then, but we're on our way. We're on our way. We're on our way.
But we don't know what's
But-
more valuable, by the way. We
What?
don't know what Hashem-
What's more valuable, the Chacham or the Nabi? Say it again. Explain it. Speak to Sarah. Beautiful. Explain what you just said.
Person who studies Torah, deep means it's more preferable than to be.
Not in a way. Don't qualify it.
Wait, I can't
Stop.
hear the answer. I'm sorry. I can't hear what she's saying. I can't hear
Oh.
how she's explaining it. Wait.
I'm sorry. What Mazal is saying is that we have an accepted premise in Judaism that the Chacham is preferred to the prophet. The person who has a lot of Torah, he or she is on a greater level than the prophet. Oh, isn't we? To your point, right? People bemoan the fact that we have no prophecy. So what? We have the greatest Chachamim, not of all time, but we're getting there. We are getting there. We have the most spectacular scholarship, and we keep moving, and our God keeps revealing, and we keep moving, and He keeps revealing. What we have to do, for example, the last 100 years, last 120 years of Jewish history, what happened in the last 120 years of Jewish history? It's unprecedented in the 1,000 years before that. We had the Shivat Zion, people going back to Israel with no Zionist aspirations. Then you have a Zionist movement given birth to in the middle of nowhere by people who could care less about Torah. And they flock back to Israel and put their lives on the line. Then you have one miraculous war, another miraculous war, a war that almost ended it all. Then you have this, and in the meantime, you have a Holocaust. Then you have this catastrophe of Simchat Torah, October 7th, right? We're living in a time of unprecedented connection and revelation of God. And we have a massive amount of Torah scholarship. By the way, the Torah scholarship that we have today is nothing compared to what's going to be in 20 years from now? Nothing. The Orthodox community is exploding. The question is going to be, how can we possibly satisfy all the needs of the hundreds of thousands of people who are going to be learning Torah every day? Many more than we have even now. So we need to get comfortable with the fact that man has to grow. And as man grows, God reveals. And it's like this, it's iterative.
Right.
Huh?
I reveals that.
Amonai is understood more. Elohim is revealed more.
I'm just thinking for a second. Going back to Moshe and
Rabbi Akiva.
So Moshe, there was no questions. Moshe got the Torah, he knew all the answers, and we had questions, we went directly either to him or to Sekenim when he, and that was that. There was a lot of black and white. Whereas Rabbi Akiva, by the time of Rabbi Akiva, there were more questions than answers, but there was a lot more expounded. I feel like one is maybe compared to Elohim versus, the black
Very
and white,
nice.
and one is Amonai, where
Beautiful.
Rabbi Akiva is more expanded down the road and
It's a beautiful way to look at it. I think it's a beautiful way to look at it. Very nice. What else? Leslie, you feeling any better? Or you wish you...
I didn't get the concept very well.
Okay,
I'm confused with the names a little,
okay.
like what's what.
Okay, so let's do it one more time. Jane, why don't you explain? Yeah, I have the thing. Okay,
She's
beautiful.
studying tonight.
But then you look at the elevation of the education, what they're studying, and then you still see what happened last year. The educated people had to have this civil war in Israel. So
Listen, the
It's-
Civil
it's,
War, by the way, great point, Jim. The Civil War is also part of the prophetic vision. The Civil War is not unanticipated. Our rabbis, our prophets, and our great Rishonim, and even some later rabbis predicted this. People were saying last year, look what's going on. The country is ripping itself apart. I said, what, you didn't read the Ibn Ezra on this? You didn't read this Nabi on it? We knew this was going to happen. And by the way, it's going to keep happening. Yes. You know why? Because what's going to happen, and again, I didn't make it up. It's documented, and I'm thrilled to learn it together. What's going to happen is the land is settled. The rabbis speak about this. The land of Israel is settled by people who are not connected to Torah. That's what they said 1,000 years ago, and 800, hundreds of years ago. I said, listen carefully, it's incredible. They predict that the people who resettle the land of Israel are going to be completely secular and devoid of God. They're going back for what we currently call Zionism, which is what happened. The people who went back had an absolute aversion to Torah, nothing anti in every respect, right? Except for the Shivat Zion, which we had, which is more Sfaradi, which happened before Zionism. Very good. And what do the rabbis say? What does the prophet say? Pretty spectacular. That in one generation, which in the time of the prophets was 60 years, but it's not a hard and fast number, there will start to be this massive internal struggle. There'll start to be this internal struggle where the people who are more committed to Torah mitzvot go head to head with the people who are against it. So when people last year were telling me, what a terrible shame, all this demonstration, I said, what world are you living in? This is spectacular. It doesn't mean it's not painful, but it's spectacular because now we see the word of the prophet coming true. This struggle is exactly what was prescribed that would happen, where it was started in a secular way. And now you have the Torah forces of the country growing and growing and growing and expressing and expressing and expressing. And that's the system. And it was prescribed and we knew it was going to happen. So instead of looking at it as, oh man, people don't like each other, look at it from 10,000 square feet and say, you know what? This is what the prophet prescribed 2,000 years ago, or what the great rabbi prescribed 800 years ago. And this is part of a beautiful process that we've gotten to this point. So it didn't take 60 years, it took 75 years. Okay, that's a second.
It's like the butterfly breaking out of the
Yeah.
Break out and suffer.
That's right.
otherwise.
That's exactly right. That's what we're up to. Okay, let's get through the first handful of words here. Okay. So, yeah. Shmi Hashem no nodati lahem. What does the word noda mean? That's a word that we should add. Shmi Hashem no nodati. What is the da'at? No. What is it? Did I do that?
Understand?
No.
Knowledge, she said.
No. Right. Beautiful.
What is it?
Huh?
Oh, it's an
Da'at
intimate
is
knowledge.
relationship, connected. That's da'at. That's husband and wife. Great. Shmi Hashem lo nodati. Let's go, Jen. Explain it. Now that all these terms with everybody's fighting with, let's Shmi Hashem lo nodati. What does Shmi mean? My manifestation, how I expressed myself. Lo nodati. I didn't do what? I didn't allow them to connect to. I didn't build my relationship built on that. I.e., what? Now I'm going to do that. Shmi Hashem lo nodati. The way I manifest it, I can manifest with the name Amunai. I didn't manifest that way. And therefore, the relationship that was built with the Jewish people today was not built on that. And therefore, what, Mazal? We're going to be building a new Jewish relationship now with a greater level of understanding, a much greater level of understanding. And that's the Amunai understanding. Say that again?
Means that I am only revealing up until Tel Shaddai, and I'm not revealing the Hashem.
Then, now we're going to get a big revelation.
Please understand, that besides for Shem Amalo Lemodai,
Yeah,
also Shama Dai, that the way that I'm manifesting.
exactly. Excellent. Perfect. Now, being that we're going to get short on time, let's talk about what the Ammonai expression is generally, and then maybe we'll jump ahead to a few of the Makot. Because the Makot, the plagues, are Ammonai strutting his stuff. The plagues are Ammonai. I moved from Kel Shaddai, I stepped into Ammonai, right? Which means what? Who were the plagues for? They were for us. They were not. It goes like this. Our rabbis hold, and we're going to go as we've done up until now, by the more remes, derash, and above, the more a little more complex way of looking at these things. That the plagues, the plagues are broken up into 3 sets of 3 plus the last one, which stands alone. 3 sets of 3. The first 2 of every 3 are for our understanding of Ammonai. The first 2 of every 3 are for us to be able to know more so we could build a relationship Ammonai, not Kel Shaddai or Elohim at this point. The third one is to punish the Egyptians. 2 plus 1, 2 plus 1, 2 plus 1, and boom, the last one. Okay, beautiful. Now, if we're going to take that approach, right? If we're going to take that approach, it means, so let's jump ahead a little bit. Let's jump ahead.
So said about the kinim. So he's saying kinim is to destroy them?
Is to punish them,
And
not
punish
to
them.
destroy, but to punish. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So go to page. Ginim, they weren't exactly. Excellent. 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 So let's talk about that. Excellent. So Dam, first one. We'll stay out of the book because we're tight on time. Dam, what is that? No, you know what? Let's go in the book. Go to page 326, 27. Go to verse 19. Okay, who wants to read it? Read it in the English. Leslie, go ahead. 19.
Take your hand and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt.
Yeah.
Over their rivers, over their canals, over the reservoirs, over all the gatherings of water, and they shall become burnt.
Good. Come on. What's going on in this pasuk? What are the questions that should jump at you immediately? Leslie, how does the pasuk?
Why doesn't he talk directly to Aaron? Why is he saying to?
Hey, question number 2. Why isn't he speaking directly to Aaron? Okay, we may not talk about that. Give me question number 1. Question number 1, look at the verse carefully. Kach matecha unte yadecha al meme Mitzrayim. Jim, what does that mean? What does it mean, Leslie? Excellent. Now, look at it from a literary point of view, period. Nothing more, right? Literary point of view. Tell me what you want to do now. Look at the rest of the verse. Look at the beginning of the verse, 19, verse 19, and look at the rest of the verse, page 326. Tell me, Mazal, if you were writing this, what would you do?
He's saying it's too wordy, too much.
It's too wordy. Where should it have stopped? Of course you do. Look at the pasuk.
Identifying each one individually.
Fantastic.
What did Jem say?
If we already said the klal, kol memehem is the klal, the general rule, right? If we already said zap all their water, why are you telling me and in the lake, and in the well, and in the thing, and in the thing, and in the thing, and in the thing? What are you doing with that? It's more powerful. Come on, you got to go more. You got to work more than that. What do you want to do with that? Not an extra word, not an extra vowel. What do you want to do?
Literary approach.
Yeah.
It is more powerful.
But,
I'm saying, give us the literary approach and take it back.
all right, great.
It is nice.
All right,
either way.
what else is it? Come on, what else? Huh? It doesn't. It can't show anger. Why? Because we said the first two are for the Jewish people.
Right,
So,
so it's
come on.
showing the Jewish people that they're taken care of, that they're being taken care of, and Hashem is very powerful.
Maybe it's the opposite.
It's not very powerful, but if you zapped all of their water, which we call the klal, right? If you went after the klal, comprehensive, right? Why am I now narrowing it back? Why?
Maybe that he's telling them.
Come on, work it. Why?
Maybe he's telling them specifically all the things that they're not yours. Don't get stuck here. It has nothing to do with you.
Okay.
Meaning he's disassociating them from all the waters specifically. I think you would need to list everything.
So I'm going to disassociate you from everything. That's why I'm being specific. Great. No, you got to go there. That's an answer. Is it the answer? I don't know.
Is it scaring the people that they will not have water either?
It could be.
Right, because now he's saying over everything, so now, but isn't someone gonna say, where's my water?
Right. So if God said over everything, would anybody think that their little well would be okay? Of course not. Beautiful. So therefore what? Huh? Okay, could be. What else? Huh?
Each thing that's mentioned here represents something else.
Excellent. Now we're getting warmer.
They worship the.
But don't talk about the Egyptians. Excellent. What do we say?
I know, but they should, that the Israel should realize that the not being, like, that I'm God, not their God, like that your God is here doing this to their God.
Nice. Excellent. So now go further. Now what you have to do, Leslie, is you have to take each term, ideally, what do? You take each term and you doresh each term. Because what do I need it in the, if it's all the water, well, what do I need it in the well? And what do I need it in the spring? And what do I need it in this? What do I need it in that? Oh, must be, if we're talking in the context of Kel Shaddai moving over to Ammonai, right? Of this narrowly understood, limited, exposed God moving to a massive coming out campaign, right? He's getting on the campaign trail, right? In a massive way. Then we got to say that everything he does is to serve a purpose to move us from one place to the next. Okay, now, what do you want to say here? Let's just throw out a few, then we'll do one more, and then we'll pause for today. We're not going to get into each of them, although you should. Everyone is coming to teach me something else. It could be. By the way, where do we have similar language? Jump again to the frogs. Look at the frogs, a couple of verses later. Where's the frogs? Oh yeah, good. Okay, go to verse 28. Page 328, verse 28, 329.
It does say over all their gatherings of water.
Right,
Their
water, yeah.
Their water, so. the way to protect everybody.
Protected us, so it didn't happen to us. Good. Not Otam, Erohem, Agamahem, all of their stuff. Good.
What is gathering?
Huh?
You would never use that, gatherings of water. You would never use that word gathering.
It's like a well or a
But gathering,
cistern
where
or a
people are.
nice, good.
You can use gathering of water.
Maybe it's a place where they prayed, right? Because the water was their God. I don't know. Right? Good. Look at the frogs a minute. Frogs here. Right? What does it say with the frogs? Verse 28. Sharat Sayor Sfadim. The Yaor became reptilianized. Strange way to say it, right? Sharat Sayor Sfadim and brought forth Sfadim. Be'alu uba'u bebetecha, to your homes. All right, a little weird. Frogs don't typically come to a domestic area. Bachadad mishkavecha, to your places where you sleep. Mitatecha, to your beds and the houses of your slaves, and to your other people, the amcha, the average people, and in your ovens, and in all of your what's the last one? And your kneading bowls. Sharot, your kneading bowls. Individualizing, excellent. So,
But that's a natural thing to happen.
no,
Once-
very nice, excellent,
Okay,
Sarah.
once the water
Excellent.
turns, they're amphibians.
Excellent. So some of the rabbis say that's the natural thing. They were growing, they were multiplying. Good. If they were growing, they're multiplying, they're getting there anyway. So you don't have to tell me all these things, right? Good. So to the rabbis who say, like you say, Sacham, that they were growing and multiplying, right? The pushback from the other rabbis say, well, if they were growing and multiplying, and it was a natural extension from one area to the other, what are you telling me that for? Just tell me they went everywhere. If you're telling me they went everywhere, it means that group says that they were created anew in each place.
Because they would die if they didn't get water.
I don't know, maybe,
They
but
would go.
but the fact they were in the room means they appeared in the room. The fact they were in the basket means they appeared in the basket. In other words, they didn't go from the room to the basket.
Unnatural.
Huh?
I envision them always coming out of the reverse.
And just hopping around. Beautiful. And you could certainly say that. But if you said that, all you would say is that they went to all of their places. Once I say they went to all their places, it's called a klal, a generalization. When I'm mifaret, I constrict it, I limit it. Therefore, if I'm going to go a klal, a generalization, and a prat, and a prat, and a prat, right? I'm going to narrow. I have to be doreshet. I have to come back and work it. I have to come back with a new idea on it. Because there's no way that God would use all this time and words to just tell me that they were everywhere.
So really, what he's saying is that the natural thing is unnatural and Hashem made it natural to happen.
Then
The
he
natural
made
thing is to come out.
excellent. He took the natural and he created unnatural and then compounded unnatural and compounded unnatural.
Like that God who created this creation. He played around the law of creation.
Excellent. And that's one of the mahalach in this thing,
All of this
is that God was effectively reenacting creation. And that's one of the approaches to this thing, that when the water turns to blood, well, the water is something, if you remember, we learned it together. The water is something that appears from nowhere. Where does water appear from? We don't see that God created water. God didn't create water. Water appears in the second pasuk, right? What one saying? Where'd the water come from, man? We have no idea. So now you're struggling with, well, what does water come from? Now, why water to blood? Why not water to mud, or water to oil, or water to sap on a tree? Why water to blood?
Blood represents life, doesn't it?
Okay.
And blood is
Also, I mean, maybe blood represents death or life, or I don't know.
the whole thing was very childbirthing to me.
It's very what?
Childbirth.
Oh.
Water
Beautiful. That's where we have to go. If the headline is Kel Shaddai to Ammonai, Kel Shaddai to Ammonai, and my audience for 67% of this at least is my own children, and I'm starting a process that when is this process going to be finished? In 41 or 42 years, when we end up in the land of Israel. That's when the first phase of this process is going to be finished, right? So we're doing this major shift in God's revelation. And now, if you take it that way, you say as follows. You say, because we touched on these things. You say, well, being sojourners, and then being enslaved financially, and then being enslaved physically, and then being enslaved and hurt, which is stuff we touched on a week or so ago, which is what the Jewish people were subject to, also connects back to this. So that's part of this. In other words, the Kel Shaddai turning into Ammonai is started with the Jewish people being down in Egypt, as you said, right? Our forefathers knew they were going to go down. It starts with that, and it keeps moving. And therefore, when we have the water to the blood, we are taking another step in this developmental process of moving the Jewish people from one level of understanding to God to another level of understanding to God. Good.
So could the water to blood be? That water was there, it was just there when Elohim, was only Elohim in the world. When you said the water just appeared, there was no Ammonai. Ammonai represents man, blood was, the blood was representing Ammonai,
Right.
the other way around, because man was in the world, so.
So some
does
people
it
say,
represent the imperfections of man?
beautiful. Some people say, to build on your point, they say like this. When the world was originally created, the world was created as substance without form. And this is very important also to understand, substance without form. Okay, when it says Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, God created the heavens and the earth. It was a gloopy, unidentifiable muck. There was a muck of what that would ultimately take shape as heavens, bigger physical and non-physical, and there was a muck that would ultimately take shape as earth, right? Then what happens is we start to have things detailed and differentiated and made distinguishable, right? God says, okay, this is going to be a light, and this is going to be a tree, and this is going to be a whatever, and this is going to be a whatever, right? Okay, good. So one of the opinions is that the water represents that big, indiscernible, unremarkable, non-detailed first level of reality, and blood, to your point, represents pulsating life, distinction, differentiation. Now, why? No, we have to think about it. But when we move from water to blood and not water to oil or water to fire, why didn't the water go to fire? It's a major question. Why should the water have gone to fire? Why should the water have gone to fire? Huh? It's opposites. And what do we hold about fire? Fire we hold as the enabler of human development. So we say that when we say Bereshit bara Elokim, in Bereshit, God created the heavens, and the earth. Some of the rabbis explain that what God put in there from the earliest stages was the concept, the reality of fire, because fire is a builder, the same way blood is a builder. So if you're moving from water to blood in this case, you could have moved from water to fire, but if you're moving from water to blood, you're moving from something more general, less formative, we would say, to something that is the essential element in a life functioning entity. I'm going to jump ahead one real quick just to give you a different thing. So when we get to the Arov, right, I'm just going to jump because we're not here next week, just that. So the Arov is very interesting. What is the Arov? Who remembers? The wild animals, right? Yeah, the wild animals are sent in. The wild animals are sent in, and who do the wild animals attack? They go after them and not after us. And the Midrashim say that if an Egyptian was hiding in a Jewish house. The wild animal came into the Jewish house, found the Egyptian, attacked him, and left everybody else. So if we're looking here to build the Jewish people and we're looking to make Ammonai the star, then one of the things that we have to prove to people is that God is in this world, that God is effective here. And one of the takeaways we get from the Arov is that this shows that God doesn't only make it happen up here, but he can be very, very detailed in his oversight, and he's absolutely detailed down here. So one of the things we take from the Arov was that, and then when we had this after Barad, right? Barad, Arov, Barad, whatever. When the Barad hits the crops, whose crops does it hit? It hits the crops of the Egyptians, and it doesn't hit our crops.
How do you know that?
It's in the pasuk.
And the same thing with Dam, with the water, did the Jews have water?
Dam water is not clear. It's not clear. Okay. What is clear on these two, that the Egyptians were targeted and we were not targeted. And what some of our rabbis say is this is to shout the fact that God is not only the God up there, but his reach extends down here, and he could do whatever he wants, wherever he wants, however he wants. The hashgacha peratit, that direct involvement, is as detailed as possible. So here again, if you're reading it from the perspective of going from Kel Shaddai to Ammonai, what we want to do is educate a whole generation on what Ammonai is and how he interacts with them.
How long was it from the first Makot to the last one?
So we say it's like 11 or 12 months, a little less than a year. Why did we say after the Makot? Right. Very good. Excellent. Because we needed to go through this tough period of being sojourners, and then being financially enslaved, and then be physically enslaved, and then be, and then suffer. Then we had to go through this whole process in order to grow. And we had to reach a point, and I'll tell it to you in 1 minute. We had to reach a point where any physical dependency was destroyed. Right? So now you can't depend on the host country. You can't depend on the goodwill of the leadership of the country. You can't depend on the goodwill of the secondary tier of leadership. You can't depend on even the goodwill of the average person. You can't depend on any of that, which means we have to live in this, we have to develop this perspective of living in this world and being absolutely independent of everything here and dependent up. And that took 210 years. And because we said that this is a blueprint for all of the exoduses throughout time till the end of time, this is what happened again and again and again. How many people are so completely secure in America? How incredibly secure are we? We are incredibly secure, huh? Up until recently, right? Incredibly secure. Do we think the government can protect us? Of course they're going to protect us. Do we think the government is going to represent us? Of course we're going to represent. 1 second. Wait a minute. You forgot? Oh, remember the story about Egypt? We were welcome there. Make your brothers the chief of staff and the heads of my army and all my most important services, right? Good. So this is a deja vu all over again on purpose, huh? In Germany, same thing throughout time, right? Throughout time. So what's happening now, I believe part of what's going on now is we have to be less secure. We have to be less secure. We can't be so bullish. Doesn't mean our lives aren't great and we don't and we're not happy in this, that, but it means that you're supposed to be looking over your shoulder a little bit. Good. All right. Next week we're off. God willing, we'll see everybody the week after.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.